The foundation of chemistry is the atom. Every piece of matter in the universe is made of these incredibly much smaller than you're thinking, no way more small than that, particles that we call atoms. The purpose of this video is not to explain why we know there are atoms, but to give you a few basic pieces of information about how they're constructed, what they're made of. So in this video we will learn that there are three smaller parts that all atoms are made of. No matter what kind of atom it is, whether it's beryllium or carbon or boron, it will always consist of these three particles we call subatomic particles, smaller than atoms. And those three particles are called the proton, the neutron, and the electron. Purpose of this video is to give you a few basic properties of these subatomic particles. So there are three properties that we're going to talk about for each subatomic particle. We're going to talk about their mass, how big, or not really their size, but how heavy they are. We're going to talk about their charge, how they would respond to a magnetic field or to another charged particle, kind of like does your sock stick to the wall whenever you take it out of the hairdryer. I mean the clothes dryer. Probably doesn't stick to the wall either, it sticks to your jeans. You know what I mean. I'm digressing. Or the location. So we can talk about the mass, the charge, and the location of these subatomic particles. So we have a chart here we can kind of look at. We can fill this in so that we know all of the things about all of the subatomic particles. First, the proton. The mass of the proton is defined as 1 AMU. Now, AMU stands for atomic mass unit, and that is the unit that we use to describe mass on the atomic scale. When things are super tiny, that's what they might weigh, 1 AMU. If you know what a mole is, a mole of AMUs weigh a gram. But most people in my class at this point don't know what a mole is yet. So that's what 1 proton weighs. A neutron weighs slightly more than that, almost exactly the same as a proton, just barely. We can kind of think of them as weighing the same, although barely. Neutrons are more heavy. And electrons, which are super light, they weigh about 1/1800th of the mass of a proton. So they're tiny. If you're wanting to talk about the mass of an atom, you don't really consider the electrons because they're so light. Charge of the three particles is as follows. Protons, protons are of a positive. Protons are positive. And so that's pretty easy to remember. Neutrons, on the other hand, are neutral, so they have no charge. And electrons have a charge of -1. This is very important to know those three charges. Finally, where do they reside? Protons exist in the center of the atom, represented here by the blue spheres, and that center is called the nucleus. The center of the atom where the protons exist is called the nucleus, N-U-C-L-U-S, as it says there. And then neutrons exist in the same place, represented by the red spheres here. And then electrons do not reside in the nucleus, they reside on the outside. So those are some basic features of the subatomic particles.